Humans are finite, but that's what electrifies life. We're here for a moment, battered by the wind and the waves, forever finding new ways to escape gravity, harness power, and fight disease. We battle, but we're fragile and frail. We feel pain, we get overwhelmed, and are sometimes riddled with total anxiety. But that's what gives our faith real meaning. We see in part, we know in part, we see only a fraction, but the discoveries of finding something new bring us to life. And in the infinite, the new is never ending. Our theories are forever changing, themselves evolving and revolving. Locked in time and space, we guess what went before and think on what might be. What will science look like in 100, 200 or 500 years if we're still here? Will what we teach now look prehistoric then, or will it stand the test of time? There's beauty in wonder, in the not known, in the excitement and potential of all the future holds. Because we can only know fragments now, it frees us like children to enjoy our few days on Earth and let God be God. One of the real joys of life is discovery, seeing, experiencing, learning something new. It's a huge part of growing up and just being a kid. That's what makes life interesting. If we reached a state as human beings where we pretty much had discovered everything, where there was nothing left to learn, that joy would be totally extinguished. And there'd be no new documentaries to watch.
Bad times.
But the Bible tells us God is infinite and his love endures forever. His understanding has no limit and he has eternal power. He is the Alpha and the Omega. He has no start or end, and we'll never run out of things to discover about God or his creation, even with all eternity. And this releases us into a place of childlike freedom, knowing that we can only see fragments of what's there and basking in the wonder of what we might discover next. It also releases us from the risk and the burden of just taking ourselves and our theories a bit too seriously. And there's so many unanswered questions out there, like what's at the bottom of our oceans or why we dream at night. Doctors don't really know why anesthesia works, it just does. And we still don't know what dark matter is, even though it seems to consist of about 85% of the universe. We can't really see it or detect it in any way, but we know it must be there because it's needed to hold the galaxies together and account for the way they move through space. The fact that we don't know this stuff in one sense seems kind of crazy, but in the other sense it's kind of fun knowing that there's so much more yet to be discovered. And with an infinite God, you have to wonder, do you ever get to the end of it? Like, how far down can you go in quantum physics? And does the universe actually have an edge? We can only see so far. Check this out, this is just insanely beautiful, blessed by a pretty incredible morning this morning. The world we live in is so crazy beautiful, especially when you get up early. There's definitely something about a sunrise on a clear day that just breathes life into you and you can't explain it. You can feel your soul and your spirit being recharged like it was made for you and you for it. You kind of wish you could drink it up or somehow be totally immersed in it. It's so beautiful and you don't know why. Creation, which is ancient, somehow reminds you how small and brief your life is. That these mechanisms of sunrise and sunset have long run before you and will long outlive you. When you stand and compare yourself to this scale, it humbles you. Even if you could know everything about the earth, the sun and the moon, you could never control any of them. We can't slow the rotation of the earth or speed up its orbit around the sun. We can't control the moon or the tides, and we're obviously not meant to. And there's something of comfort in that. We don't need to be in control because somebody else is. And maybe there's something similar at play with knowledge. Maybe there's boundaries and limits and things which just can't be known. And maybe that's for our good. It's fascinating that the more we uncover and discover about life and the universe, the more questions than answers seem to arise at the moment. It's almost as if the gaps in our knowledge are expanding the more we learn. I've absolutely loved reading a few books and absorbing a load of content recently, all on science, faith and philosophy. And one thing stands out, and it's that we've still got no real clue how to answer any of the main questions about the origins of life, the universe and existence. At least not from a mechanical, here's what happened and when approach. Starting with the most interesting but perhaps most abstract and mind-bending thought, if we hit the rewind button and reverse time way back to before our universe, before any ideas of a multiverse, and accept a true starting point of absolute zero. No energy, no matter, no Amazon or Audi, no particles, atoms or quarks. You also have, in theory, no space or time. No existence, not even the colour black, because all of those are things. In the beginning, there was no time for anything which didn't exist to happen. The origins of energy is another great mystery. According to Einstein, it can neither be created or destroyed in a universe, only converted. It always remains constant, which again begs the question, where did it all come from? How did it get started in the first place? And then there's the origins of life itself, which since Darwin has become increasingly perplexing as the true nature of single-cell organisms has come to light. They are monstrously complex, perhaps more so than anything humans have created. Its DNA code resembles computer software, and it has an incredible ability to reproduce, pass on information, and adapt. There's no real scenario where lightning strikes the primordial soup and out pops one of these. Life's origins, it seems, is still a total mystery. And when you start getting into all the mathematics of what's required from a perfect planet and a finely tuned universe for carbon-based life forms like you and me to exist, it's truly incredible. The list also goes on with consciousness, conceptual thought, and language presenting huge challenges and also currently making very little sense. If you think about it, you think about all of those ingredients, no amount of time should turn these rocks into a conscious, self-aware being that can reproduce, create order out of chaos, and ponder a moral law. But here I am talking to this camera that humans invented, and there you are, maybe a few of you watching and listening, and this literally makes no sense. To be fair, it's not just science where you feel these gaps, actually just in the Bible you feel it too. Even the very first page of the first book in Genesis, one page on the creation account, that's all we get out of the whole Bible. And we're not even sure what kind of text it is. Is it literal or literary? Are we talking about 6 solar days, literally 24-hour periods of time where everything was created? Or is this more like a song, a poem, a parable? We're not really sure, and we're going to be debating this until Jesus returns, and hopefully he'll tell us. But the Bible definitely doesn't tell us everything we want to know. It tells us what we need to know, but there's definitely some gaps here. And while we tend to crave knowledge, we want to know and explain almost everything, there's quite a huge claim in the Bible that's mentioned almost like a throwaway comment. It's in Proverbs and it's literally just a one-liner. There's no unpacking and explaining, just a statement. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. It's claiming that without knowing God and fearing him, a type of fear I believe is life-giving and keeps you away from death. Without that type of fear, we won't have the very first building block of knowledge. Perhaps think about it this way. It's a bit like the 100-meter sprint at the Olympics. The blocks are filled with the world's fastest athletes, but none of their talent, training or preparation will count unless they stick to a very precise set of rules. As they wait for the pistol to fire, they cannot flinch or even have a finger on the starting line. In fact, any movement within 0.2 of a second of the gun is deemed to be a false start because no human can react that quick. As they run, they must not put any part of their foot on or outside the 2 white lines that define their lane, and they cannot in any way obstruct another athlete. Their running spikes cannot exceed 9mm and they cannot have more than 11. And when the gun goes off, it's all about execution and technique as they react and transition through the phases. This is all to say that they simply cannot show up when they want and run in any direction. Obviously, that would be crazy. They might still be incredibly gifted and fast, but it just wouldn't count for anything. And something similar is at play with knowledge. It actually starts with knowing God as our Father and Creator, and as we launch forward into discovery, we can uncover all sorts of beautiful things that benefit the world around us. Things like penicillin and electricity, renewable energy, travel, the internet, smartphones. All of these are amazing when we use it to love God and to love our neighbour. But notice the lane has defined edges. There's limits to what we can know. As Ecclesiastes says, he has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from beginning to end. That's actually a massive statement. Although we crave knowledge and have eternity set in our heart, notice the verse says that we cannot find out, not that we at some point will figure it out, maybe in the 21st century. So when it comes to all the big questions like the origins of the universe, the age of the earth and humanity, things like evolution and even understanding more about the dinosaurs, so much of that stuff we simply cannot know. We cannot be like God and have this knowledge. There's actually an echo of Genesis 2 here, where the tree of knowledge was set off limits, and the great temptation was that by eating its fruit, we could be like God.
Yeah. Ooh, put it on me.
Come on.
No.
No. Oh! There is a slight possibility that this video was a good excuse to weave lots of footage of my kids into this project. I think for the first part of their life, they actually thought that the camera was part of my face because it was glued onto me almost permanently. But as a dad, you know, full-on camcorder dad, you've got to get the shots because these little Christians grow up so fast. Stay small and cute forever!
No.
It's too late. He's too far gone. In any case, I don't know how you feel about resting in this more restricted and limited approach to knowledge. In the Bible, it says we actually have to humble ourselves like little children to enter the kingdom of heaven. And that's definitely no easy thing. Children aren't in control of their lives. And thank goodness, I don't know how long my kids would survive if they were, especially this one. And to say there's a bunch of stuff that they don't yet know is just a massive understatement. They got no choice but to just trust us as their parents, no matter how difficult they might find that. But they won't stay kids forever. Their birthdays seem to come around every 20 minutes and they're already halfway to actually becoming fully fledged adults, which is pretty terrifying. I could only just about cope with this graduation, but when they are older, they enter into a whole new world of freedom and responsibility, knowledge and hopefully wisdom. And there's a day coming where something similar will happen for all of those following Jesus, just on a whole new level. Just another beautiful sunrise. Check that out, that's awesome. If you do believe the Bible, then this life is like a flicker at the beginning of eternity. It's just incredibly short when you measure it next to that scale. And in the next life, which could come at any moment, there's gonna be, the Bible hints, a gradual revealing of incredible things. You see it in places like Ephesians 2, where it says, in the coming ages, he might display the immeasurable riches of his grace. So you look at that verse, in the coming ages, that's plural, that's sequential, that's an age one after the other. He's going to display immeasurable riches. This is quite a hard verse to wrap your head around. You don't really know what those immeasurable riches might be, what it will include. I'm guessing they're pretty awesome. Probably all sorts of things about God, about his attributes, his love, his kindness, his mercy, his justice. I think it will also include his grace to us through creation and what he's done here in the physical world. Colossians 1 is definitely one of my all-time favourite chapters in the Bible. In it, you just get such an incredible vision of Jesus, the way that everything was created through him and for him, that in him all things hold together. And if you stopped holding it together, every atom in the universe would just disintegrate, it would fall apart, we would cease to exist. It's just absolutely a phenomenal verse, and I'm hoping there's going to be a revealing and unveiling of that too. The interesting thing about heaven, if you read up on it, is actually we won't know everything. We'll actually probably spend the rest of eternity learning just amazing things about God and his creation, and we won't run out of that stuff. And that actually takes us to one of the most awesome types of knowing that is so overlooked by the world around us, and it's that we can know God and walk with him. This is the creator, the sustainer, the ultimate intelligence, the being that doesn't just have love but is love. It's the being that actually created this sunrise this morning. We can talk to him right now and he'll listen. And if we tune in, we can hear him speak as well. And it's almost beyond comprehension when you actually think about what's happening there. Following Jesus definitely isn't about having all your questions answered, but it's about knowing you can trust the one who's fully in control, the one that knows in full and fully knows us.
you, baby. Don't let him rain on your spark. Keep it close to your heart. All of the pressure's gonna drive you crazy.
Thanks for watching this video. I think a visual essay is probably the best way of describing it. I've done it purely just for the fun and pleasure of doing it. I've actually had a bunch of health issues recently that have really just been not so much fun. I just decided to take a step back for some freelance work and just do something I really enjoy instead. So hope you enjoyed this video. I've really enjoyed putting it together. And we've actually only really scratched the surface of the surprising beauty that can be found while living in this place of partial knowledge and understanding. So maybe you want to pause for thought, maybe discuss with a friend, or even if you want to go crazy and use this video to launch into a discussion at a live group or a small group, you could ponder the following questions. For speed, I'm just going to throw them up on screen. I'm not going to read them out, so press pause if you do want to use them. You can also download this video if that's useful from wovendesign.uk. I'll put a link in the description. But anyway, in your discussions, maybe take a look at Hebrews 11. It's an absolutely amazing chapter looking at the heroes of faith. And anyway, this video is honestly about twice as long as I originally planned, so a bit of an error there. Way too many thoughts keep occurring, so going to end them now. So thank you for watching. Peace out.
The end. Dab out and peace out. Bye bye.